Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Monday's edition of National Matters. My sincere apologies to come a little bit late, and we'll do our best to cover the grounds that we can. I must say that I'm honored again as we look at the budget of Zambia, reviewing the budget, instead of us just having a political voice in the name of EFF president. I called the former Minister of Commerce, is served in government. The name is an household name. But above all, is a seasoned, qualified economist from Harvard University. I don't forget that. And this is no other than Honorable Bob Chinga. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you so much for having me, Pastor Chilova, and also good evening to the viewers.
And President Kasonde.
Delighted to be here.
President Kasonde, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's always an honor to be in the midst of such greatness. On my left and on my right.
Thank you.
So, we're looking at the budget. If I had just gone straight with you, President Kasonde, somebody would say this is a political kind of analysis. But adding a political voice with the experts in the matters of economy, what would you say about the budget that will be reviewed?
Thank you. Of course, at the end of the day, a budget should speak to the needs. What you see in a budget should be reflective of what you intend to accomplish, and what you intend to accomplish is not premised entirely on your ambitions, but on the needs that you have on the table. So when we look at the budget, it should be able to speak to what the needs is. So now when we look at this budget today, the common question that we should ask is it responding, is it answering the questions that are in Zambia?
Have you looked at it in details, or you just lightly went through the budget? Would you say it's a good budget?
We eat, we breathe what is happening in this country, because to us, being in politics at my level of being a political party president, it is full time. That's what I do in the morning, that's what I do in the evening, and that's what I do when I'm asleep. So that budget, some of us were privileged. We even had snippets of it before it came. So the time it was being presented, we were on board following it keenly. The moment the actual document was released, that was formal, we also got it. So we've looked at it more than once. Critically so.
President, Honorable Bob, what would you say about the budget?
Well, I think to a large extent, I'd like to agree with the President of EFF in the sense that a budget is basically a plan.
It's a plan.
It's a specific plan comprising a quantified issues that need now to be used, if you want, as an instrument for financial management to fulfill the economic needs of a people, of a nation. And if you want to reduce it to even a lower level, you can even go to the level of the household. Every household has got its own budget. In other words, where we talk about my own household, I need to pay for electricity, I need to pay for water, I need to pay for the feeding of the family, the fees, the clothing, and so on and so forth. And therefore, these issues are very much interconnected, and that's why we're saying it's a plan. It's a plan that is quantified. It's a plan that is based on a certain premise. So let's go back a little bit, and maybe in order to answer that question more comprehensively, let me do this. I decided that I was going to bring with me a copy of the 8th National Development Plan, because that 8th National Development Plan is part of what the current budget, the 2024 budget, is in fact leading or comprising of that 8th National Development. So just for the benefit of viewers.
That document was done by the UPND?
This is a government document. This was done by UPND.
2022.
And it's 2022. I don't know if the cameras can pick it. It's 2022 to 2026. As it turns out, it falls in place with the mandate, if you want, the tenure of the UPND government. Okay, so this UPND cannot say it's not their document. It is their document. It may have been started before they got into office, but this is their plan. This is the 5th National Development Plan. Now, this particular one is the 8th one. There is one more to come, which is the 9th National Development Plan. These National Development Plans are 5-year plans. They are leading us to a bigger plan called the Vision 2030, which the country did a long time back, and saying this is what we want to see Zambia, to be a middle-income, industrialized and prosperous nation. That's what that says, the 2030. So each one of the plans along the way, whether you're talking about the 6th National Development Plan, the 7th National Development Plan, the 8th National Development Plan, or indeed for that matter, the 9th National Plan, which is to come from after 2026, is part of that Vision 2030. I hope we are clear on that.
Okay.
Even the Zambian plan of 2030 also forms part of the AU plan called the 2063 plan. In other words, it's a vision that the continent of Africa is looking at and saying this is what we would like to see. So each one of the member countries are contributing towards that in their own individual way, based on their resource base, based on their strategies, based on the challenges they have. So in your referring to today's national matters, yes, the biggest issue must be the budget. But before we come to the budget, and I just want, again, I brought a copy of last year's. I haven't got today, the one for Friday. This is last year's. This is what the minister summarizes from all the items that need to be looked at to form that plan. And it is normally under, I'm sorry, I left this in the car, but we've got the yellow book, so-called yellow book. That is the comprehensive national development plan, reduced now to a specific year. But before you even come to this one, there's another plan before this one. It's called the medium-term expenditure. We used to call it expenditure framework, now they call it expenditure plan. It's the same thing. In other words, that comprises 3 years, 2022, 2023, 2024. All right, so every year, it's called a rolling plan, because every year, when the year comes to an end, it falls off. The next one is added on. When that comes to an end, like the 2023 will come to an end, it will fall off. Then there will be 2024, 25, 26. That's how it will work. So 26, as we have indicated, is now showing us that this is our 8th National Development Plan, part of that National Development Plan that will conclude that. But these rolling plans, they're 3 year, 3 year, 3 year, 3 year, are called medium term, in other words, halfway. So it takes 3 years. So this one is taking from those 3 years, looking at the specific one. So we cannot look at the 2024 plan, which is coming next year, in isolation. It is part of what is 2023 and 2022.
So it has to be backdated.
In other words, you roll it over. So that's what happens. So we've got here the National Development Plan. We've got the medium-term expenditure framework, from which this budget for 2024 has been extracted. And some of us, as President has indicated here, participated in reviewing it and so on and so forth. So in order to answer the question you are talking about, we cannot look at 2024 in isolation. We have to say, where are we coming from? That is why when the minister presents his budget, he normally goes back and says, the global economy is like this. In other words, the current global economy that we are going to base our budget on is like this. And when then he reduces and says, within our own country, that global plan is looking like this in terms of how it affects Zambia. How does it affect Zambia? Zambia has a debt problem. Zambia is a landlocked country. Zambia does not produce oil. And Zambia has got a young population. So in other words, you specify it to the needs of Zambia, which is why I said I agreed with that particular proposition. And around that, you say then, we are going to make some assumptions. in terms of how we want to do it. We are going to say our wishes, this is our desires, this is our wishes in terms of doing what we want to do. But you may be constrained by the fact that you may not have the resources with which to implement your wishes, good as they may be. You know, in other words, we call it wishful thinking. Right? You are thinking that this is what I want to achieve at the end of the day. So a government does that in terms of its planning and says, this is what we want to do, but it must conform with the medium-term expenditure framework, it must conform with the S National Development Plan, it must conform with the Vision 2030. Because that's what you've said, that's your plan. If you don't, if any of this is missing, you will not get to 2030 and achieve the same objectives.
You have expounded on that, Honorable Bob, very well to make every common person like me understand. Now, since you're talking about Vision 2030,
yes,
there was PF in government. They did what they did.
Yes.
And when UPND came, they were building on the foundation
yes,
of what PF did.
That's correct.
With political wrangles here and there,
That's
do you
right.
think those plans are followed?
No, not always. And this you raise an important issue, because there is this tendency to say that in our case we're going to do differently. Now, this is just because we did not have a law, by the way. We did not have a law to guide our planning and the budgeting. And I had been pushing, when I've been in Parliament, I was pushing for it to be instituted. I started from 2002 when I was in Parliament. I said, we must have an act of Parliament. We must have a law that guides how we do it. Why do I say that? Because without planning, you cannot have the budget. Because this is an instrument of planning. But there are also figures that are quantified to say, for this, we are requiring to spend so much. Now, that is referred to as estimates. What goes to Parliament, what has been the ministers presented to Parliament, is estimates. It's not that he has got cash for 2024. He does not have cash. It's an appropriation. It's a proposal. It's a provision to say, if the things that we've talked about, which we have assumed, the vision that we have, the assumptions we've made, if those are fulfilled, this is what we would like to achieve. He does not have cash. He does not have cash. He expects to earn it. Hence, he's got measures in there to say, this will be my source of revenue, referred to as resource envelope, and I will spend it on this. And generally speaking, in terms of our general public, they tend to think of it in terms of, okay, now we'll spend more money on CDF. Now we'll spend more money on social cash transfer. Now there will be more money for road construction. The truth of the matter is that it may not happen.
I think, before I come back to you, Honorable Sichinga, you've answered a lot of questions in my mind.
Okay.
Now I see where the darkness is on the continent of Africa. I'll come to President Kasonde. You've heard how Honorable Sichinga spoke about the 2030 plan. President.
Yes, please.
Now, you as a politician, you have a political party. You've got your own vision, you've got your own plans, and I'm sure when, assuming God gives you the grace to be president in 2026, you are going to discard what UPND is doing. You come up with your own plan. You are going to discard what PF started. I'm saying that Honorable Bob Sichinga has answered a lot of unanswered questions in my mind, in that I say, why doesn't Africa develop? I think it comes from some political school of thought. I don't like what PF did. I don't like what UPND did. I'm going to bring my own vision. And in there, we are forgetting what Honorable Sichinga said, that when you make the plan, 2005, 2006, there are things to be followed.
Correct.
If you said we must build 500 houses as MMD 500 on the copper belt, 500 in each province. When PF comes up, they can say this was the
disposal,
it was for the MMD. We don't agree with it. We are
it was
PF.
misplaced.
It was misplaced. And when PF leaves the power, UPND says this is
why it
our
failed.
vision.
Yeah.
Have you heard what I'm saying,
Definitely.
President?
Definitely.
What would you say to that?
Yes.
Just from the political point of view.
Yes.
About the development plans.
Yes, definitely. I think the question that he is really explained on is the direction of where the budget should take us. That we're a wheel within a much bigger wheel. There is a plan for the country.
Right.
There's a plan for the southern region. There's a plan for the global. So we are intertwined in many ways than one.
Right.
But now, as you rightly put it, by the way, my condolences. I just heard you lost
thank you, my niece.
Yes. So to bring
Thank
it
you
into
so much.
context, you already have a budget that you have set out for this year. But what has happened is you unfortunately have received a misfortune. So we should be very cognizant of facts that when we have a budget, the question is, who is the budget for? The budget is for you. It is not for show. It is not for anybody else. It's not for me. It's a budget for you to meet your needs. So even when you are planning, you should put in things that are reflective not of anybody else, but of your needs. So Zambia, being a country that it is, before we can even go to draft, even if I become president today, there are specific needs that this country has that we must attend to. Some are predictable. We have, for instance, the debt mountain. Whether I don't like it or I like it,
it's there.
It's there. Mpiana nambabala. So when you come in, mpiana nambabala. So there is a certain level of expectation from the budget, and this has to meet those fundamentals. But why are you meeting those fundamentals? Because those fundamentals are an explanation of what you want. So whether I became president today, or tomorrow, or 2026, there is a part of there's a part of the budget that is beyond me. It's beyond my ambition. It's beyond my plan.
My vision, yeah.
It is my duty. It is my duty. You don't negotiate with duty. Unfortunately, it has fallen on you. You said you had been running up. So it doesn't matter what you had. When a misfortune befalls you, as the breadwinner, the pillar of the family, you respond to it. So the same applies when you take over the country. It is not your country. You are representing collective desires of Zambians.
Absolutely.
So the collective population of Zambia has a debt. So you have to attend to it. Then after you have dealt with those fundamentals that Zambians need to eat, even if my ambition is to do whatever, first I need to make sure that Zambians eat. So when I'm looking at a budget, it doesn't matter whether I'm Kasondela, a magician, first I'm getting power to plan even in the budget. It should be reflective of the needs. Because I can't be having a budget that is responding to buying a helicopter because it's my ambition, I want to fly. First, I will have to take care of the needs before I can fulfill my own ambition. So beyond ambition, there is duty. So when we look at this budget, before we can even say what does the UPND want to do, what is their plan, we should first judge them, scrutinize them. Are they first and foremost taking care of the needs? Because needs has got nothing to do with whether it's Hakainde Chilemozea, whether it's Kasonde Mwenda, whether it's Edigalu. It's got nothing to do with that. Panganda whether ni babanda, ni bapiri, ni bamulenga, bana Afrika badi.
Njala.
So the question we ask ourselves first and foremost is the budget responding to those needs? Before we come, if they have got plans that no, they will do this is good for them. But the basic, are they attending to the debt? Are they attending to the cost of living? Is it reflective in the budget? Is it coming? When we look at fundamentals like our exchange rate, is it reflective in the budget that we are attending to this challenge? As he had rightly put it, saying we are not building a budget from a vacuum. We are building a budget from an established position. And our established position, as he had put it, is 2023. So in 2023, where were we? Before we even talk about 2024. Because at home, one of my kids today when I was going, I noticed the shoe was opening. And then I realized that, okay, I have to buy a shoe. Why am I saying we have to buy a shoe? Because I've seen that the old shoe is opening.
No longer hold.
You see? So that decision is premised from somewhere. I can't just wake up and buy my son a shoe. Why am I buying my son a shoe? What if he has got 10 pairs of shoes? So the question we ask ourselves is, let's look at our tax burden. Before, how much should we allocate there? That can only be answered by how much we are indebted.
Maybe there's something here, Pastor Chiluba, that I think is important for us to acknowledge. In some countries, you probably saw yesterday in the United States, they almost came to a stage where they were a few hours away from shutdown. Government.
Yes.
Now, let's understand the framework around which that works. The responsibility of allocating resources lies with the legislature. It lies with Parliament. In the case of the United States, it's the Congress and the Senate.
Yeah.
Okay, that's their duty to say, we have approved, this is the budget we have agreed to. Here's the presidency. The presidency says, I as president, in this case President Biden, I want to achieve a certain things on behalf of my political party, the Democrats. How do we get there? And especially where the two parties have got different controls of the Congress, the Senate.
Senate, yes.
Right? In other words, there's a president elected, but he may not be controlling the Senate. He may not be controlling the House, the Congress. So what does he have to do? That's one example. In other jurisdictions, and I'll give the example of Botswana. In Botswana, once you have agreed on a budget, it does not matter which government comes into office, it sticks to that budget.
Really?
Yes. Because that's the budget which has been agreed through consultations with the people. That's what you said you're going to do. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to get where you said you would get to, like the 2030 or 2063. There's also another issue, which I think Dr. Mwenda has just raised here, which I think is very, very important for us to understand. There are certain things which, when people are in opposition, they may not fully understand the underlying figures, for example, of debt. As you saw that UPND comes into office, finds a certain debt, they assume it is 10, they assume it is 11, then they discover, no, it's 17, no, it's more than that. How about local debt? It's at this level. No, it's not at that level, it's much more than that, what was disclosed. In other words, you arrive at a situation which is beyond what your original understanding was. Let's go a step further. There are circumstances that arise even when there's a good plan with good estimates, good assumptions, and then you find that here is the Ukraine war.
Bang.
Unanticipated. What do you do? Price of fuel goes up, right? Your exchange rate, because you're giving away all the mines, you don't have foreign currency as a government, you have no control over it, it is owned by the companies that mine, and you as a government has to buy from them the foreign currency, and they say, well, for this, we have to pay more because our currency is not strong enough, therefore, government, you can only buy from us at 20, now it will be at 21. Then central bank pushing money, bring the exchange rate down, because any time the exchange rate goes up in favor of the dollar against the kwacha, it means your costs must go up. It's imported costs. It's imported inflation. That's what it means. That's the implication it has. Now, each government has got a certain understanding of the economics and the methods they can use within the context of these dynamics we've talked about: global, regional, continental, regional, and then, of course, local to the particular country. So what tends to happen is that every year the government produces a report. It's called the Annual Economic Report, and I knew that you were going to ask that question, so I brought a copy. This is produced by government. I don't know if the cameras can be able to pick it up.
If you lift it up.
All right, I will lift it up. This is produced by the Ministry of Finance annually. The latest report is the 2021 report. That's the latest that we have. For me, it's too late. You are giving me 2021, and meantime we're planning for 2024. It's too late. It's history. You're wasting my time.
Yeah.
I can only use it as a historical basis. That's all I can be able to use it for. But I can also learn things from it. So in this particular case, there is a section which helps us to have an understanding. It reports against that budget you had in 2021, remember? It says this is how you performed. And this economic report, the annual economic report for 2021, says to us, for example, on page number 9, it says, I will show you the share of your gross domestic product, where it came from. And in this case, the highest contributor to that gross domestic product, in other words, what the country is generating, its value, the biggest contributor is mining and quarrying. It constituted 19.4% in 2021, as at the end of 2021. The next one after that is wholesale and retail trade. In other words, as a country, our highest contributor is mining, but next to it is to sell what we don't produce.
My goodness.
That is what it says, and it's 17.3%. After that is construction at 16.2%. And guess what? I got here about 11 sectors. That's what this reports. If this can be seen here, right?
Yeah.
Here. All right? The one at the bottom is the biggest contributor. The one at the top is the least. And at the top is information communications contributing 2.4. Real estate is contributing 2.6. Agriculture and forestry is contributing a paltry 3.1%.
No way.
Here it is. It's not Bob Singer's figures. This is government figures. 3.1%. So in order for us to say these are the policies I'll pursue, you need to agree in your mind and make it very clear in your manifesto that when we come into government, our emphasis will be in sectors such as agriculture, where we want to enhance from the 3.1% to a higher percentage. Why? Because 84% of our population are based in the rural areas. And their livelihood are completely dependent on agriculture. You cannot afford, Pastor Chiluba, President Mwenda, you cannot afford to mess around with agriculture. And this is why there has been this general concern about how our colleagues in UPND's administration have performed in agriculture. And you can politicize it if you want to. But the truth will catch up with you. Is there the maize? Is there the rice? Is there the groundnuts? Is there the millet? Is there the sorghum? Is there the cotton? You said which can make a difference in the lives of the people. And if that doesn't show, then maybe now the presidents of political parties will say, well, we're going to make it different. We are going to allocate more resources towards that. But even when you do allocate more resources, it does not necessarily interpret into a success. It depends on how effective your implementation programs are. It depends on where you are making the investment. So, for example, in the current year 2024 budget, the government has talked about, the UPND government and the administration saying, we're going to revamp 4 farm blocks. To revamp farm blocks, fantastic, great. How are you going to do it? The how is what will result in success or failure. Because we've said, these figures don't lie. They're not produced by me. It's Ministry of Finance. If you go to agriculture itself, it will tell you, it will break it down to individual commodities. You will see that. So what I'm saying is that the fact that you are saying, I'll do this, does not mean that it is therefore successful. And unfortunately, because our general understanding as a population is that many of us fear figures, so we don't really analyze them the way we should and say, what are the implications of this? Yes, you may say, I'll allocate these resources, but you will allocate resources so that in Nansanga farm block, In the one in Wapula, for example, or one in Eastern Province, and so on and so on. You to select those is a decision of administration. The amount that is put forward is the decision of the administration putting the proposal forward to Parliament. And where they have the population or the numbers in terms of the members of Parliament, they can pass it. But at the end of the day, this will catch up with you.
Now, Honorable, this makes a very sad reading or understanding. I wish all Zambians could have access to that. Why would you have agriculture contributing 3%?
Because you haven't made the investment.
Yes.
Why?
And yes, if I may just come in there.
Yeah.
What he's saying is very true. And I think one challenge we've had, unfortunately, we keep seeing growing, is the lack of us even knowing the extent of our problem. He's explained how we are so in a bad place concerning agriculture. Today, I sat with our party think tank, and they gave me some information that I thought we should share. It has to do with the Chinese debt. That's a place where we have 1/3 of our debt, the biggest mountain in a single place. That's the Chinese debt. And in our budget, the President Hakainde Hichilema kept saying it's like a python squeezing us. But it's very important for you to know even the size of your python. Because you can be thinking you are being squeezed by a python, and yet it's a worm. Or you may be thinking you are being squeezed by a worm, and it's a python. Because if you know the size of your problem, you will know what tools to use. Do you know that, in all honesty, our government is either they don't know or they have not been sincere about what our true extent of the debt is? We had a report that is coming from the Boston University Global Policy Development Center. He knows it very well.
Yeah.
They have reported that actually the total debt, the sum of the total Chinese loans for Zambia is US dollars 9.1 billion. But we have heard the government talking about 6.6 billion.
Yeah.
That is wrong. And they went to China with a wrong figure. So how do you negotiate? Where do you take now the 3 billion? You can't account for it.
50% of the debt you say you have.
Yes. So we went to China thinking we are owing China 6.6 billion, when in actual fact, we are owing China 9.1 billion. Unfortunately, the government used, I think during your time, there used to be reports even from the Bank of Zambia on their website of how much we are owing, how much we are paying. That stopped. I don't know what happened to transparency. But now he brought in a very important issue, saying, where are we concerning agriculture? Because we need to start seeing a shift of us funding agriculture. But we can only fund agriculture when we know the extent of the problem in agriculture. Yeah. Now let me show you the breakdown of even the debt that we have to China. We totally have 80 debt, like different loans from China, 8. And this is how they are spread. Now I want you to take note and see where is agriculture, which is actually supposed to be our main driver. Sure. This is how they are spread out. In transport, we have got 28 loans allocated to transport. Energy, we have got 14. It's also showing us how we prioritize our investment. Defense and military, as if we are a warring nation. Maybe we need a lot of such, he knows better. We are at 11 loans from China, 11. You would think agriculture is next. No, it's not. It's information and communication with 8 loans.
Which Honorable Doctor?
Yes, it's 8. Wow, you would think maybe at this particular juncture we are going to have agriculture. No, you won't have agriculture, even at this moment. Yeah, you're going to have issues like public administration. After public administration, you are going to have water, sanitation, and waste. Agriculture is actually last. Where we have just the number say 1. We only have 1 loan on agriculture from China. 1. When actually, if you see the agriculture of China, China is able to make more money from selling garlic than the amount of money we make from selling all our copper. So we go to China, we don't even know the extent of our problem. Even when we don't know our extent of our problem, we don't even know what to ask. Because if we knew that actually China has not lent us concerning agriculture, then we would approach China and seek that to help us in the area of agriculture. But we don't know.
But those things, President Mwenda, those things are basic. I'm saying they are basic. I'm not an economist, I'm a pastor. But I've got passion for this nation.
Right.
Honorable Sichinga, you remember the conference we held?
Yes, absolutely.
The conferences that
Yes.
we've been having.
Yes, that's right.
All our professors, including Honorable Sichinga, they were putting agriculture at the bottom. At the bottom. In the region, even here, agriculture goes at the bottom. So now, when you have experts, people like my friend Dr. Reda, who, when they look at Egypt, the amount of millions and billions they generate through agriculture, and here we are putting more emphasis on mines, I don't know where we miss it, Honorable.
Yes.
Yeah, let's answer this question. You see, the choice of the prioritization is critical, because that is what determines what your intentions in terms of vision are, but secondly, how it will impact your people. Where is the problem? Where is the elephant in the room? You may recall that on this program, I came and spoke so many times urging President Hichilema to go to China first. Don't go to United States. Go to China first. Go to China first. Because although the date was like a serpent squeezing you, it was not China that was squeezing Zambia. It was the Eurobonds. It was the Western loans that were Euro. And also, go a step further. Where is your production going to take place? Where do you want to be?
Yeah.
Who is causing your price of copper to even go up? It's China. Because that's the factor of the world. So that's why I was urging the president, go to China, sit down with China, because the biggest debt, single debt, is with, of even official debt, is with China. Surely that must have been the first place for the president to go to, in order to deal with that, because that would have driven, it would not even have taken this long to get to a stage where you've now got some agreement on the official group, if you want to call it that, on the debt treatment framework. I've said debt treatment framework. We have not yet finalized the figures. No. We've only got a framework around which to work. Okay, it is going to be not more than 3%. It should not be more than 12 years. It should not exceed these interest levels and so on and so forth. That's a framework. There's no specific figure. Within that, you can then negotiate. There's still going to be the Eurobond to be agreed on, the Paris Club, the London Club. These are groups of creditors who you must agree with. Okay? You must get to their agreement. Because now we have got an agreement through IMF on the official framework, it is a help. And I think you cannot take that away in terms of the crediting the effort that has been put into it, both by Dr. Msogotwane, Nkulukusa, and the president. You cannot take that away. It is good that we must have an agreement. And what I'm saying is that had the president gone to China first, he would have dealt with it. Let me tell you this. This is based on me as an economist and as an accountant, and
and the former
minister.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. Americans do not invest in most of the third world countries unless there's something strategic for them. In this country, which is the biggest American company you have? Show me one. None. The only company you have that is American is Citibank. Just stop and think about it. I went selling Zambia when I was Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, because that's where it fell. I was in Washington. I was in New York. All these trips that President HH is talking about, we've been through all those. All right? I went through all of them. The Americans will sit there and wait. The Japanese will take 5 years before they make a decision. We went to South Korea. As I'm talking to you now, there's hardly any company from South Korea investing in Zambia. But they're the guys that are greatest in telecommunications. So there, you need to look at it in terms of where do we make the investment? What is it that we're looking for? So to agree with President Mwenda, if we prioritize agriculture, and let me give you some statistics for the benefit of our viewers. Number one, as of today, Zambia imports more than 400 metric tons of bananas. Imports on a monthly basis. 400 metric tons. Bananas. But there is the Monoshi banana scheme. You know what there is now on the Monoshi banana scheme? There's a brewery. Come on. That unit, that Munoshi banana scheme in Mwasabombwe can fill up that 400 metric tons. I'm talking about import substitution. We import about 100,000 metric tons of fresh fish, most of it from China. But we have 40% of the freshwater resource here, both underground and surface. We should be exporting more than 100,000 metric tons of fish, for crying out loud. So where do you expect the foreign currency to come from? We import 64% of our edible oils. 64% are imported. Most of it is palm oil from Malaysia. We spend more than $100 million on edible oils. But there's Inshaba in Petauke. There's sunflower in Petauke. So what I'm saying is to come to the agricultural things and to agree with President Mwenda. If we prioritize that and say this is our focus, it does not have just to take the investment, say, now we're going to develop these blocks. No. How about the low-lying fruits? What is already being produced? You say to people, go and produce rice. Then you say, we're not buying rice. What do you expect to happen to their production next time? They will not produce because they don't have a market.
And the soya bean.
Now, you talk about China. China making money out of garlic. Garlic. Can we not grow garlic here? I mean, you got palms here, avocados, right? The whole seedlings of avocados right here. The whole of this place is covered. Why? If you start to make those now, start to produce, yes, it may take 5 years. So the fact that there has been an allocation to sort out the agricultural blocks, the farm blocks, does not mean that it has happened. It does not mean that. Because when did we start with Nansanga? Almost 10 years ago. More than 10 years ago, Nansanga. No water, no dams, no road infrastructure, not enough electricity. What do you expect? What will it produce? So this issue of we've made money, and you see, this is not actual cash that now is available. No, it's a provision in the plan, in the estimates. That's what it is. When it comes to implementation, you must show me here. That's why these reports that are about how we're performing become important. If you are playing the politics of CDF, it will catch up with you anyway. Your exchange rate will not. Today, as we're discussing this now, right now, what's the exchange rate? 21.20.
21.20.
It may have gone up to, as of now. 21 kwacha. When was it? Barely 2-3 months ago. It was at
21.1.
21. Yeah. My bank was at 21.20. Just a short while ago, it was at 17. So, in other words, in the last 2 months, we have lost as much as 5 kwacha against the dollar.
Very unfortunate.
What is the percentage of that?
Yes.
It's a huge amount. And that, who is paying for it? The ordinary person.
Yes.
Why? Because the price of fuel is going to go up.
And
The transport is going to go up.
I am told the fuel has gone up.
It has gone up
Yes.
now, just under 30.
Yes.
Then the people in the village, in the townships are saying, wait a minute, how about meal? We can't afford meal now. And the president is saying, no, it's because there's export to Congo. No, this is smuggling to Congo. No, we should not talk about smuggling to Congo. We should talk about exports to Congo. Why is that important? It's important for us to understand that the Katanga province of Congo has been a concomitant factor in our production. Our consumption, maize consumption in this country is 1.25 million metric tons every year. 1,250,000 metric tons. That's our consumption. If you include Katanga, we spend almost 750,000 metric tons. So between us as Zambia and Katanga, we consume about 2 million metric tons of maize. But 30% of what we produce goes to waste because we don't have storage here. So surely the first thing to do is to invest in the storage.
But we are not a kind of people that know and prioritize where the problem is.
Because we don't read.
Yes.
We don't read.
When you say we don't read,
no.
President
This-
Kasonde, are you telling me those figures?
We have to interpret what is being said from these reports. And this is why political leaders like Dr. Mwen, they ought to understand what if they are going to provide solutions, how will they do it? How? I'm talking about how. How? Don't just say, I'll do this, which is what has happened now.
Yes.
UPMT was criticizing a PF. But what has happened? They've fallen straight into the same pit.
Yes. As is put it, this is October. And the farming cycle, this is the moment we have to go to cultivation. And if you have to leverage and make the livelihoods of Zambians better, it is now. In computer, they say to you, are very learned, you say garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
When you're building and you're going to use building materials that are very expensive, you shouldn't expect to come and produce a house that is cheap. In the same vein, right now is a time we have to go and cultivate the land. But at this particular juncture, this is a time when we have the record high fuel prices. Meaning, as you go to cultivate, you are factoring in that high cost. It won't disappear when you're taking your seed, when you're taking your fertilizer, which unfortunately
it will reflect
in the cost.
It
And
has
the
to.
other thing also is, when the costs are high, you reduce the players. When it's like if you don't want people to attend the party, just make sure that the ticket to attend the party is high. So right now we can't even think of having a bumper harvest unless we are strange. Because right now the players, the kind of people that can go into farming, the cost of farming is very high. So even if we made the price of maize lucrative, attractive, the question is, if somebody only has 10,000 kwacha, how much farming can they do that? Because in that 10,000
That's
kwacha,
what they can do.
they can only cultivate as much as where their strength is. So this is a point where people who are expecting of changing the course of time and help the livelihoods of the people, if we have to sacrifice for Zambia, it is now in October when we need to sacrifice. You can't sacrifice at the point of harvest. It is too late because the parameters that have been put into agriculture are already concluded.
Yeah.
They are already decided. Right? So right now, if we are buying fertilizer at 1,100, when you are lucky you find it at 800, we are pushing those costs into the maize we are going to produce. So to come and think that next year things will be better, unless we are berserk, we are beyond mad, because we are deciding the future now. So if we were to make efforts to correct our mess, is to make sure that it becomes bearable for people to go into farming now. If we can subsidize their seed, if we can subsidize even at least their fuel, energy, we subsidize it, we make it possible for more players to go there and cultivate. Because right now I'm a farmer. Trust me, even if I want to cultivate, where will I get the money? There is no money. So if they were expecting some miracle next year that things will all of a sudden change, it won't. We're actually digging a deeper hole. He gave very good comparison on the budget of how we should approach it. I've read a lot of your notes actually, especially in Bao. If you know how to attack a problem, you can attack it from where it is. You need to know, even if you are in war, you need to know where your enemy is standing. No matter how good your artillery is, if you don't know where your enemy is approaching from,
You waste your
you
armor.
waste all of it. So it's like now we are shooting in the wrong places.
Correct.
Instead of us empowering farmers now to cultivate so that we can have a bumper harvest, we are taking money to CDF, Constituency Development Fund. The question we need to ask ourselves is, what are you developing by constituency? What do we want them to develop? I'm an architect. I'm seeing the substandard, mediocre buildings they are building. You find that a building, bapangana mistake. I'm a toilet here about road. These are the buildings that when we become president, tukafitoba. Because we can't keep up with that.
But those buildings are not government buildings.
I mean, they are still eating off from the coffers.
No. What is whatever comes from government resource is government property. It's public property.
Yes.
Or just in case, even if it was given to Bob Stinga,
Yes.
and say, Bob Stinga, you're a good pastor, we're going to give you money to put up a church. That church belongs to government.
Yes.
That's the law.
So, what he has said, if I may just put the numbers to it, he talked about what problems do we have. Yeah. We need to sustain our kwacha for us to be competitive on the market. When there's inflation, we need to find a way to uphold it. But if we look we are planning this, so we need to base on the 2023 that he lifted so well. In September 2022, the exchange rate, in September, the final day when we were giving the budget, it was at 15 kwacha 18 ngwe to $1. 15 kwacha 18 ngwe to $1. When we were presenting this one, it was at 21 kwacha. So now, it's like you have a problem. I don't know what problem the UPND is trying to solve. Because if they knew that the problem is that we are hemorrhaging our kwacha, it should have been reflective in our budget, that we are working towards that. So we had a kwacha at 15 kwacha to $1. Now we are presenting this budget. It's at 21, and there's nothing in the budget. Minimum, for instance, which is a total representation of our cost of living in Zambia. We ask them, people say, no, my politics, yeah, my politics, Rutoshi, at the end of the day. Those who are learned so well, like you and the big man here, is that you know that it has to trickle down to the basics that people afford. So if the price of minimum in September 2022, just last year, we are not even going back to 2021, we compare with the PF. No, we want to compare UPND with UPND now. So UPND in 2022, minimum in September, 25 kg was 165 kwacha. 165 kwacha. When they were presenting this budget a few days ago, it was at 315 in Pick and Pay. So last year when you were making a budget, price of minimum was 165 kwacha. You are making the second budget, it's at 315. And when you check in the budget, there is no measure and an allocation to leverage and reduce the cost of living. Then what is your budget based on? What are you budgeting? Because So
does it mean, Honorable, before President continues that, does it mean that when you budget well and you plan well, minimum you can't go up, like from 165 to 315?
It can. It can. And this is what I meant. I said there may be factors that you have not. Remember, the budget is estimates based on assumptions, estimates, understanding a particular environment that is subsisting, and also assuming all the other factors that are necessary, interest rates, for example, exchange rates, for example, and all these things that influence your economic indicators. Let's put it that way. All right? That's the assumption. If those are not correct, or you have taken an action which will influence a major part of that, like the exchange rate, for example, or you give away the mines, which is what has happened now, right?
Yeah.
You've given it back to Vedanta, and you say, oh, they will invest $1 billion kwacha. How much money would a mine produce to get $1 billion kwacha? How much do we get as a country? Last year, we had produced 880,000 metric tons of copper. 880,000 metric tons. If the price is at 10,000 dollars per metric ton, how much is that? 8.8 billion. That's what it produces. Now, that's the value. But you have removed the mineral royalty tax from 6 to 3%. So how much will you get? What is 3% of 8.8? It comes to about $400 million. That's all you can get from mines. So how do you think you are going to sustain your kwacha? You have no dollars. You're no longer a shareholder in FQM. You've given away the 20%. You no longer have shareholding. You cannot participate in the decisions they are making. You're not a shareholder.
Yeah. And just to add in what he's saying, Zambia, in context, these are giant resources where if we were a serious country, we wouldn't be where we are. We are 8th right now. We have actually even dropped. We are 8th in the world on the ranking of producing of copper. Number 8. What a decent number. But we produce a total of 4% of the global copper. 4% of the whole world. This is huge. This is huge. So you actually look the kind of poverty we have, and then you realize that we produce 4%. Meaning, if there were 8, if there were 10 countries in the world, you see,
that are producing at that level,
yes,
you're talking about 40%.
Yes. And yet we fail to have benefit from this because we don't own our mines.
You don't own the mines.
Money is died from us. It is sold. We are not part of the total value chain, even of exploration. We are not part of it. We are not exploring as a country. We are not excavating. We are bystanders. We are not processing. We are not even selling to make matters worse. So we are idly watching our mineral resource sachet 4% of the world. And yet there's so much hunger in Solwezi. There's so much hunger in Chilabombo. There's so much hunger everywhere.
Yeah.
In Lusaka, people can eat akaleza.
Yeah.
That's how much hunger we have. And yet we are responsible of giving 4%. 4% would mean that all the cars that come to Africa, all the electricals in all the cars that come to Africa could have all the copper wires from Zambia. That's the kind of quota if we have to see. So all the cars that come to Africa, we should know that in context, we produce all the electricals for them.
Honorable, you worked for the mines to the level of a director, am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
That time Zambia had shares in the mines.
Yes.
Why did we give up all the shares and why have we given out the mines? Could it be that as Zambians we are incompetent or what is it?
No. In fact, it's a very good question that you raise. And especially those that have never worked on the mines, they have a completely poor understanding. And I've heard this argument about how Zambians cannot run the mines. I'm going to share this with the viewers so there's a clear understanding. I left the mines in 1986 after having worked for the mines for 10 years. And I left at general manager level. Okay. I was group financial controller, and I was also the director responsible for management information, all the company's management information systems, and also cost-saving measures. So I can talk with authority. I can tell you that. Now, the price of copper in 1986, mid-1986, was $1,900 per metric ton. $1,900 per metric ton. Today, it's at 8,300.
No.
Yeah, that's the price of copper today. Per metric ton.
8,000.
8,300.
In your time, 1,000.
1,900.
My goodness.
But we owned 68% of all the shareholding was owned by the government of Zambia. It was because of the privatization in 2000 that all this was lost. The IMF, these same IMF guys, and I've repeatedly said, this is not a group to follow.
No.
With all the greatest respect to all those that, you see, they have got a specific agenda. The agenda is to protect the West in terms of the resource that they have to extract out of Africa. And here we are, watching this commodity being taken out of the country. And then they say we don't have the resource. How can you not have the resource when the mineral royalties, right, that you are charging right now, today, the announced budget is at 4%. There's a certain amount exempted from paying any mineral royalty tax.
Is that right?
Of course it's not right. Come on, you don't have to be an accountant like me to understand that that's nonsense. Why are you doing that? And that is because you don't even have any shares at the moment in FQM. The only company that is on the mines right now that is owned by the Zambian government, right, is Yomufulira and Nkana, partly, okay? Because that's the one that Glencoe gave away and said, we don't want Mopani anymore. Okay? That's what they said. Because we're losing money. No, they had made their money, they had recovered the money that they had borrowed, and everything else, and made a lot of taxes. But the grades were getting lower, so they wanted to get out. I worked at Mufulira as a division of financial controller at Mufulira mine for 5 years. So I can tell you figure by figure. I know exactly which particular shaft is producing what. Most of our production was coming from Mufulira West. So I can tell you specifically. I have worked on the mines. I was a director in Nchanga Farms when we created the Mukumpu farm block, which is now called Mpongwe Farms. That was created by ZCCM. I was a director on that particular board. So what I'm saying is that you see, you have to be strategic in terms of what you want to achieve. As we talk now, 100% of Mopani is owned by the Zambian government. Why are you giving it away? Why? Why can't ZCCMIH go to the Wall Street and borrow against the ore which is in the ground, which belongs to Zambian government? Why are you giving that away?
Well, the answer to that is something that is definitely in the open arena. We have people who drive the agenda of the West, whether for benefit or for ignorance. I think President Hakainde Hichilema, with all due respect, is cognizant that the IMF drives the agenda of the West. We don't even sit on the body to make authority.
You're not sitting on that. Look at FQM. Last year, under UPND, they gave away 20%. No, we can make more money from mineral royalty tax than from dividend because we're not being paid a dividend. How can you win a debate at the board if you own 20%? How are you going to do it?
Honorable, may I ask this sincere question? Zambia is not for UPND.
No.
It's our sovereign nation.
Correct? It's a sovereign property, yeah?
People like yourself, you mean you don't have the authority to walk into Mr. Musokotwane's office and say, with all due respect, you are the Minister of Finance, but these decisions are wrong.
Does he drive the agenda?
He's the Minister of Finance.
But does he drive the agenda?
Who drives it?
Yeah, well, that's the question that we need to... You see, I think people must understand how government works. If your president says to you, and I'm saying if the president says to you, no, in terms of my strategic approach, this is what I'm looking to achieve. This is what I would like. We don't have money, so whatever little we have, we should spend it on this particular area. So let this be private sector driven, all right? And have an interest in the private sector. What would the minister say? He has two options: either to comply or to resign.
But does he have the fiber to resign?
So I'm answering your question. Okay, I'm answering your question. There are certain things, for example, for me as an individual, there are red lines. I will not go beyond that. It doesn't matter who. The only one I fear is God in heaven. If I disagree with the president, I disagree with the president. And I'm saying to you that the reasons why I ask the question, surely our colleagues in government must be able to see what we see. These are educated people. Both the President HH and Dr. Musokotwane, they're educated people. How can they not see? Look, here's a document. I brought this book. I hope that the cameras can pick it up.
What book is that?
This is written after the privatization of ZCCM. It says, for whom the wind falls. And it analyzes all the issues. It's got a breakdown of what went wrong with the privatization in 2000 of the mines. It's here.
Yeah, it's a good book.
It's here. I didn't write it.
And we have got all experts alongside the government right now.
And this was written by John Lungu and Alistair Fraser. Here, every detail is here. It's not mine. I didn't write this. And I'm asking, surely any minister, but unfortunately, I have to say this, none of our colleagues currently in government have worked in the mines at a high level. Because that, you have to understand what is happening in the mine. ZCCMIH, it's their duty to go and borrow on behalf of the mines. They don't even have to involve government. Because the information that they need to use is the same information that FQM, that Glencore, and that in terms of Mopani or Vedanta is going to use. It's information coming from the Zambian government. So how can they not use it?
You are saying that some of the borrowing and some of the negotiations, the president doesn't have to get involved?
No. There's no way any decision can be taken about the mines without the president being involved. That I can tell you straight away. And the president knows that. He cannot deny that. There is no way the mines can be sold without the president say so. He knows it very well, and he knows exactly what he's doing in terms of policy. He does.
And I think he's not the only one who knows. These things, I think there is some level of blatant arrogance that we have had as a country, that we have managed to sink ourselves this low deliberately, because that spirit of patriotism, sometimes it is not even seen as real by some people. We need to be, it is sometimes perceived as being naive, that people can have a picture to say, we can develop as a whole. That desire that we can, as a country, benefit, it is something that Zambians should not take for granted. It is not in some people. Some people are gluttonous. They think of me and me and me. And we should know that, some people would ask you, say, so you think the whole government can make that decision? They've got experts. So what do you know? There are experts there. No, experts can be reduced to rubber stampers. Because some people, if you know you know what I mean? I struggle to even kill a rat. I feel it has got a life also, but again, it's a nuisance. You see what I mean? So there are people who have got those hesitations. But we should know, Zambia, that there are people who are blatantly greedy. And when we make mistake and we allow them in the corridors of power, they will make decisions that are premised on their self-actualization. They will sell a mine if they are selling it to somebody where they will have an avenue to benefit. Just today, I was talking to some colleague. He said he had a business idea and he took it to one of these ministers. It had to do with a border post and said, look, we can make money as a country. This is what you need to institute. This is what you need to do. You know what the minister answered? No, shelf that. Let you incorporate a company and you and me will drive the agenda. This is the truth. It is out of integrity that colleague backed out. And this is an active minister serving in this government. So we have people who see the country as a commodity for them to make money. And it's not rocket science, such that people there sit there and they are so believing, saying, no. I think he's working something. No, it's not working something. No, at least if he's working something, it's not something for all of us. And we people don't learn. I've got that book written by your colleague Chitala Mbita
Chitala. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He atomized all the things that were sold, even during privatization. I love to sing about this. I think Zambia should know that there are people who were receiving Ichigayocha government a full mine to cater for Northern Province during privatization, given to a prominent former minister, and up to now he has not paid. Farms that we see littered around this country, nobody got a farm. They have got ranches. No, these people are big farmers. Big farmers. They are criminals. Because those farms that they haven't paid. I always want to emphasize this. We have this problem, and I'm praying so much that before some of these people grow too old or before they die, we need to correct something. A lot of things were stolen from this country. MMD, during privatization, was an accomplice. A lot of people stole. I know MMD could not investigate, even the likes of Bakai Dechema could not investigate them because they stood together. After that came PF. PF is a breakaway. Let me just finish this.
That is a little bit hard.
No.
When you say President Taka and they stood together
I'm coming.
without evidence.
No. I've got evidence. Let me come, please. Just allow me to
if you can just stick to what went wrong without mentioning names, I would appreciate.
Okay.
Because some people are not here to defend themselves.
Okay. Let me say it as it is. Because at one time, if this country has to heal and make headways, we should hold people accountable. I'm a proselyte of the late John Mwanakatwe. I lived in his library just a stone's throw away here. I've read books that Zambians have not seen. I've heard things that people have not heard. I know some deals and I can stand up and defend. So it is factual, it's not out of hate. I love Bakai Dechema. I'm the one that wrote the Economist, that book, to defend him during the time of Kumukobeko. We have fought battles for such people. But a moment should come that Zambians should know that this country will not be put in the right track. Squeeze it. We can't have a president who presided over a scam, an atrocity that rendered this country to its knees. This is a book. I've read this book. This was my lecture at CBU. It itemized of how we wrecked this country. And these people who wrecked this country are in authority right now. They have been in power since MMD. They transformed the late Michael Sata. I'm the one that wrote his biography. I admire some traits in him. But this is a group of people that transformed from MMD, went formed PF. PF couldn't investigate the scam of privatization. I pray God gives us life to lead this country. We investigate that criminality and we'll get back the property. Because some of these farms that are even dotted around are still state farms. So from MMD came what? Came UPND. Or came PF. PF couldn't investigate. Now we have UPND. One of the masterminds now of the privatization is now sitting on the throne as our Republican president. He can't even talk about the scam. He can't talk about the atrocity of 1994 to 1996. It is written on our hearts, and our hearts bleed every day, because we are a country that is hemorrhaging in pain, in poverty, in destitution, and we are a disgrace to the world, because we have people that are carnivorous, we are cannibals, we eat our own. And I pray that God gives us salvation, that this country gets to heal. We investigate this.
Have you got issues against the President HH?
I don't even have time.
But have you got facts about him?
These are facts embedded, these things are in books. He said people don't read. Have you read the book by John Manakatwe, a teacher? What's the name of that big volume? I have a copy. I wish I'd come with it. These things are in black and white.
Honorable, what mistakes did you make as PF? You formed the government of PF.
Yes.
You were Minister of Commerce.
Yes.
It is good to look at UPND, to look at this,
Sure.
to look at UNIT. What mistakes did you make?
Well, all right. Let me put it this way. That is impacting us even to this day. The issue of the Eurobond. The first Eurobond, 750 million United States dollars. It was never brought to cabinet.
It was not brought
It was
to
never
cabinet?
ever brought to cabinet. It was never discussed. An investment of that kind, a borrowing of that kind, should have come to cabinet.
So,
Should have come
who
to cabinet.
borrowed
Well,
without cabinet?
because under the Act of Government, Act number 366, the Minister of Finance can borrow. It doesn't have to ask anybody. That's how it was. Right?
Is it still in effect
in
today?
this podcast, with all the greatest respect, and they said don't talk ill about the date, that was Honorable Chikwanda's responsibility. That borrowing was made. Many of us, even as ministers, only learned about it when it was being announced. The second 1 billion was borrowed. The question that I have in my mind was, if you are going to make that borrowing, what is it for? Where are the projects that you're going to invest that money into? How will it generate? How will it cover that particular cost? For me, that was a major omission. Right? In fact, at that particular time, I expected that level of money should have been put in a power station to ring fence it, that any proceeds, any sales of that power, say in the Southern African power pool, would have easily paid itself back. You asked me the question about what I think that was a big mistake. All right, but I also think maybe in fairness to those that have deceased and gone before us, the president was not in a viable state health-wise. All right, and therefore we did not have as many, shall we say, interrogations. Honorable Chikwanda at the time was the minister, the late Minister Chikwanda.
Yeah, Minister of Finance.
Minister of Finance. He brought a yellow book, the yellow book, 1,800 pages, and says, can the members of cabinet look at this, and I want the papers back for about an hour. Not even I, as an accountant, can study a yellow book of 1,800 pages
in 1 hour.
In that 1 hour, and make sensible comments and be able to defend it in the House. And I made it very clear to the president, and my colleagues would shake me and, don't speak too much with the president. I said, no, I do not agree with that. When I was Minister of Agriculture, for example, there was no provision to pay the farmers. And I raised a lot of noise to the president. I said, sir, this is not realistic. You've given me money for fertilizer, but no money to pay the farmers who have already delivered the maize.
Honorable.
So you asked me the question.
Yeah.
Those were, I think, that were major omissions at the time.
Honorable, let me open the lines and the text messages. I know there are burning issues here. Can we correct these mistakes that are observed through UPND, through advising, or whatever? Or simply put it this way, how can we correct the mess we are in? Because like you said, if Katanga and Zambia can consume 2 million metric tons, you mean as Zambia we can't grow 5 million metric tons?
Well, when I left office,
and export?
When I left office, for the first time we reached 2.5 2.5 million metric tons of maize alone. And that turnaround was in 1 year, which is the greatest thing that you can do with agriculture. You can turn around the country. Tanzania, Kenya, Malawi, Zimbabwe, they all, and Congo, of course, concomitant, they all wanted maize from us. So the best thing is to move forward. But our capacity to store was only at 900,000 metric tons. But we produced 2.5 million. Where were you going to keep the balance? And out of the harvest you make, 30% goes to waste because you are keeping it on logs, okay? And with the tarpaulins on top, it just starts to germinate.
Mr. Director, please open the lines, let the people contribute here. And this is where I say sometimes...
So yes, we can correct it.
Honorable.
And before you go, you asked him whether we can
correct it.
I can also want to add there, before even the callers come. I think we can, but we are not working towards correcting it.
Exactly.
Because right now, there are some atrocities that are happening. You know, we are able to create falsehoods, drive an agenda to meet an intention which is not true. Let me give an example. I'm rooted in Copperbelt. We made a fake story about Indeni refinery. No, it is not state until we closed it. And we are saying, no, what we'll be doing is now we'll be blending.
That story of Indeni was fake?
It was fake. We like that we'll be blending. We are not blending. Instead, we killed Indeni with a view of giving some preferred people the ability to be importing.
Absolutely.
We gave to an Indian man to be importing, now bringing finished product. We killed a government asset.
As we talk today, now.
Let's pick up this call. This is very interesting. Hello, good evening. Good evening. Okay, so now
but let me answer
you are
the question.
saying that
Let me answer the
Indeni
question
was a fake story.
No, but let me answer the question you asked.
Yes.
Yes, we can fix it if we have the political willpower. You need a truth and a reconciliation process. Because, as has been said, we all know what happened. We all know who bought what. For example, from the privatization. Some of the people in the political arena were involved in it. They are beneficiaries.
Those serving today.
Yeah, even those serving today. In 2021, right? In 2021, was 50,000 metric tons of fertilizer not purchased for Southern Province? At what price? $1,500 per metric ton. When I had served as Minister of Agriculture, we bought fertilizer from Saudi Arabia at $388 per metric ton. 388. And here you have a government paying $1,500. Did the president not know? $1,500
a metric ton.
A metric ton.
Yes.
And you were buying at
$388.
$388.
Yeah.
And this difference?
That is almost 4 times.
Yes.
Where did it go? Where did it go? The government has not. The Indeni issue, you know, and one must give credit to the Kaundas of this world. The reason why there was that way of what they commingled oil.
Hello, good evening. Let's pick up this call. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
What's your name?
How are you?
What's your name and where are you calling us from?
This is Mkandawire of Luwansha.
Dr. Mkandawire, a long time. Please go ahead and contribute.
Yeah, a long time. Truly. Many times I've failed to just...
Please go ahead, Doctor, and contribute to the debate.
We lost him.
Hello? Oh, we have lost Dr. Mkandawire. So,
Hello?
hello?
There you are. Yes,
Yes. It's a very nice discussion there and quite crucial
Is
and
Luansha,
quite enlightening.
is Luansha also under poverty conditions?
Oh, yes, very much so. Talk about CDF. I haven't seen anything that is showing that I can point to where CDF has gone here in Rwanda. If you have dusty roads, I can't see even a third road where I stay. So hunger is there. People are complaining every time.
So what's your contribution, Doctor?
Sorry?
What is your contribution to this
Yeah,
discussion?
my contribution is like Honorable Bob Chinga has said, and the other panelists said about correcting the situation. You know, that's why I also wrote in my book, Zambia Christian Nation, so what? I said, when and why can't this CCM be investigated? Because a lot of people got the property but never paid for it, which is very sad, you know. Then two, looking at the poverty, look at like what has been discussed. They are talking about if we are going to have cheap maize in terms or cheap meal next year, then we have to deal with the factors that are contributing to the high levels of poverty in terms of high cost of meal. In this case, we're talking about fertilizer. We're not producing cheap fertilizer, which we are going to give to the people so that they do the farming. Look at the fuel which is going up. Look at the maize. We sold this maize at 280, but look at the private millers. They are buying their own maize at more than 300 kwacha. Do you expect that even the minimum can go down the next year? Not even the other year, it's not possible. It will take maybe 3 years before we correct this situation. So this is a very sad situation. Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mugandawili. As a regular viewer of this broadcast, he has just brought his views. Yes. But I want to understand what you said, because that mistake, this is national matters. I have some inside story, Honorable Sichinga, that even Zambia was closed because other people had plans to open their own.
That's right. That's
the
correct.
Assets that we had in Zambia the things that we had in Rome, in Britain, the hotels that we had, the assets.
Yeah, it was not illiquid.
One of the directors of finance who quit and went into diplomatic missions, he said Zambia, he has his own weight, but I can tell you, he grieves over the sale of Zambia Airways because we were far much better than Kenya and Ethiopia Airlines.
Correct, absolutely.
And the plan to revitalize the Zambia Airways was with us. But some people sold, liquidated so that they can create their own airline, and it failed. Now you are talking about this in Deni. It makes a sad hearing.
Let's conclude in Deni. What did the counters say? They said, because we do not have a elaborate oil of our own, we will ask that the oils that we require are mingled together. So what tended to happen was that the ship in which these oils were being carried were filled with the various components. That's why it was called commingled. Came to Dar es Salaam, pumped through the Tazama pipeline, commingled. All the power stations up to Ndola. The biggest number of pumping stations is in Zambia, starting from Chinsali, right, all the way to Mpika and so on and so forth. And that concoction, if you want to call it, that cocktail of oils, came now to what is called a breakdown a plant called refinery. All it was a separator. It was separating now the diesel out of it, petrol out of it, and after petrol there was paraffin, there was a heavy fuel oil that mines were using, there was also the remnants which are used for doing the tar. Okay? From the same concoction. Now, what has happened now? You are importing diesel from Dar es Salaam after you've cleaned the pipeline. So that what? One commodity out of the 5 that we've talked about. What are you trying to achieve? Explain to me technically, explain to me financially, explain to me policy-wise why you are doing that. Tell me.
What
So
about-
now what has happened, all the other commodities, you say, okay, go on the road, start transporting. Have you seen the road between Kabwe and Kapiri?
It's terrible.
Have you seen from Kapiri
It's
into Ndola? Can you even get into Ndola? No. So what are you saying to us? What is the policy position? And has it been explained? No.
Let's pick up this call. Hello, good evening. Good evening. You are through to National Matters. Okay. President Kasonde, what about the issue of the leakages? We were told that there is a lot of oil or the commodity being lost through leakages because that is an old pipeline. That cannot be fixed.
But that's the same one you're using now.
Or it's being used
It's
now.
not being used. Yeah, right now.
Has it been fixed?
But that's the whole point. So that argument can't falls away. You can't say that. If it had leakages, it will leak whether you're talking about diesel or you're talking about commingled. If it is leaking at commingled because it's a thicker material than diesel, which is already refined. So which one should leak more? The diesel. So if you're using it for diesel now, because you finished that and you said there was a stock of 89,000 metric tons, million metric liters, what happened to it? How have you processed it? So the argument of saying that, no, we want to shut down the Indeni, okay, because it's not economical, that argument falls away. Look, surely you're not talking to children.
So who is operating in Indeni right now?
No one, well, Indeni was put on care and maintenance, remember?
Yes. It's a way of getting, when, as a country, we need to have a system that deliberately allows for the people of Zambia to benefit from the wealth of the country. And we need to have a system that distributes that wealth to the people. So one way in which people make money for themselves is by intercepting those systems. Make sure that they have a conduit, because if, for instance, Indeni is functional, it is running, it is able, it's even much easier when you want to subsidize.
Absolutely.
You know where you're taking the money, because you have got a central system. But people would want to shut off that system because they want money to be leaving the state into their private hands.
Correct.
So they don't want government to be directly involved in procurement.
So now those people who are involved in that, can't they be investigated on the process of...
By
who?
Huh?
Who is going to investigate?
By the government.
Let me give you this case in point. We reported the case to SCC and Corruption Commission, and you know what happened? And Corruption Commission started investigating what work, because when this government came in, it procured illegal, first and foremost, fertilizer. To a tune, it made about $199 million of a commodity. We reported it to Anti-Corruption Commission. We took them a dossier itemizing the real detail of who bought what. They were selling at a price higher than everybody else, and government was procuring without the note of even acknowledgement. How it was not even part of the budget line. We took that matter to SCC under this government, and I called Bamusa Monyanto, what is this? This is total corruption happening in your face. And Corruption Commission took it, they investigated it, they found a case. You know what happened when it reached a point when they needed to make arrests? They sent us a letter, and they called it highly secret. So now they cut off from us even sharing that information. So we have a government under President Hakainde Hichilema and that Corruption Commission that is actually imbibing corruption, protecting it whenever it points to them. There's a lot of criminality happening in this government. It is a den of criminals. Forgive me for saying this under your broadcast. Those are the only ones I have. And until we reach a moment where people...
looking for other good weights.
I don't have good weights for criminals. Because what they are doing... these things, at the end of the day, they trickle down, and it's the ordinary people that suffer. Corruption is not just a clandestine thing that we point out when we don't like somebody.
But corruption is being fought. There are people being arrested here and there who are corrupt.
Yes, it's like in a place you say...
Let's pick up this call.
Some, but not others.
Some, not others. So there are some others. Okay, let's pick up this call. Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Pastor, very well. What's your name, son? Where are you calling us from?
Yeah, thank you. John Mulenga.
Mr. Mwenda. Mr. Mulenga, please go ahead. Within Lusaka?
Yes,
Please go ahead and contribute to the debate.
thank you for this. First, I'd like to say thank you to this program. I think it's quite a difference to some of us and so many people. I would like to thank you.
Mr. Mulenga, I think drop the line and go again. We are not hearing. Are you hearing anything?
No, I can't
President, are you hearing anything?
No.
Please drop the line. If we can't hear, other people can't also hear. Drop the line and let's be on the same page. This is getting something. You are saying some people are being prosecuted, others are not being prosecuted.
No.
Why don't we establish a Truth and Reconciliation
That's
Commission?
exactly what I said to you.
Who appoints that? Who
but
is it the president?
It has to
where
be.
we can all go and
It's
say
the administration
there
that
is
must do
this
that.
one here. I've got
correct.
this.
Yeah, correct.
So the president is the one.
They have to do that. You know, you cannot. You see, that's how they use. If you don't have that authority, how are you going to appoint the commission? Who appoints the commission? This example that has just been given, where do you go? Even in the privatization that took place here, there were Zambians that were lawyers. There were Zambians that were supposed to be economic valuers. There were Zambians that were involved that benefited from it. Houses, people have houses today that they never paid for. It's a fact.
And in the farms, I'm told you
but the farms are
some
here.
people have
Yeah.
got farms
So
which are
until-
not paid for.
So the Truth and Reconciliation Commission should be to establish what the truth is. If you don't come forward, then the law will follow you. But it has to be genuinely done. It must be done not with intention of persecuting some people and protecting others, which is what is happening now. How is oil coming? How is fuel coming to this country?
Is it not coming through Puma,
Who-
Petroda, and all this?
Who is bringing it into the country? They have to have a permit to bring the oil. Who gives the permits? So you cannot do it, Pastor Chiluba. You cannot do it without government's interest, without government being involved, without government being determined, genuinely, not to use it as a facade, no, but something that is genuine truth, as the Bible would say. The truth, not half truth.
Let's see if there are some, before you comment, President Mwenda, let's take up some a call and then text messages. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chiluba.
Permanent bless. What's your name,
Bobby
sir?
Stinga,
Hello.
Mwenda.
Thank you.
What's your name, sir?
Yeah, I'm calling from Karurushi. This is Mr. Mutale.
Fantastic.
Mr. Mutale from Kalurushi. Yes, please.
Yes. My contribution is that it's pathetic for the fellow of this system. We need these people who are behind this to be questioned. Because people in Rwanda, they are suffering, they are destitute.
Correct.
Even in Congola, everywhere. Many people died through that. Please, we need these people to help us. Abantu bomikoti tube kwakituwelewele abantu balifuwa bendifuko byalifuwa kulekya amafuliji y'amativi kulekya n'omufuko wabunga etalekika mu Rwanda. Tebabana mu kimo ky'abantu bafukamona mu kimo nakalyayo.
But
Nomba abo bantu bayafye baleyonkola okuyuntwa. Lwekwatuka ebisiro obulo bwino problem yafuma kutwafwediko nakotulamukwale.
Vamutanelo tamula chitanani kabili vidanta na vaileta.
Yes,
Oh, it's good. I wanted
You
him
see-
to know that Vedanta has been brought back.
This is why, you see, people are so desperate that they can even praise something they know is wrong. What is it that Vedanta will do now that they couldn't do before? Tell me.
And the
What is it that they can do now better than they did before? They made their money, they want to make more.
And that's actually, it's very unfair. Vendetta was kicked out of Zambia at the recommendation of Grant Thornton, led by President. I've seen the report. There is a report, anybody can Google it, on the recommendation that they are doing tax evasion. They were mistreating their workers. They were not following our health guidelines. Now, on those grounds, what has been the justification? What has been the justification?
Out of the country?
Under the recommendation of President Hakainde Hichilema's company. So now today you stand up in parliament and say, we are proud to announce the return of Vendetta, and say, you should be ashamed. Yeah. You should be ashamed. Today you can't be the one saying, these are criminals. But you know, one thing we should know for a fact, Zambia will only be a country when you will have the shepherd no longer stealing the sheep. The day will have no longer the shepherd being stealing the sheep, then things will be okay. I'm thirsting for a moment. It could not be me, it could not be, but I'm thirsting for a moment when we will have people that will not take people for granted. Let me read you this. What happened in February? The UPND government procured fertilizer at an overpriced figure of more than 150%. The current Saudi Arabia sourced fertilizer price per ton was between $400 to $550. Yet the government of Zambia procured the same at $1,040 from Alpha Commodities. This procurement was out of allocated budget, illegal as it does go against the Public Procurement Act number 8 of 2020. You know how this was approved? And speedy approval by a cabinet meeting. Now, a cabinet sanctioning criminality, who can investigate them? So this government has had moments when the full cabinet, that's why, God have mercy, a full cabinet sits whose interest, according to Zambians, is to protect their interests. And what do? They steal from the Zambia. Now, if the Malonde will are you safe?
But
this we took to Anti-Corruption Commission.
An emergency thing to bring in fertilizer so that we can have more food security. You
do not steal. You know, even a thief would give an excuse. Say, I stopped because the door was open. Stealing is stealing. There are ways, and the law is very clear, under which then you have to evoke an emergency law. It should only be under a state of emergency that you can have some procurement. Not whimsical because you feel some province you failed to do the right thing and time has run out of you, and then you evoke a law that does not exist. There is no law that allows you to steal.
But it was Teddy Mulonga chaired the National Tender Board at one time. Now National Tender Board, is it still there?
It is ZPPA.
Does it do the
No, but this is the whole point. That's
through?
The whole point.
Yeah.
That is the whole point. Cabinet does not have such authority.
They don't have.
You know, government is about rules and regulations. Cabinet, you cannot bring into cabinet as a proposal from cabinet, a member of cabinet. No, it has to come from the institution that would have recommended that. In our view, we are recommending for the approval of this. For example, in Saudi Arabia, you talk about this fertilizer, oil. You cannot purchase oil or fertilizer without it being approved by the parliament.
Really?
No, you can't. So how was it possible that his cabinet, they were approving a document from who? From ZPPA? If it is coming from ZPPA, then they have every right to question ZPPA. How did you arrive at the figure of 1,000? When I was minister, there was a similar situation. They were asking for extraordinary figures of fertilizer, and that's why I said, in this case, I, as minister in charge of agriculture, based on policy, I would rather you, permanent secretary, you, secretary to treasury, you go to Saudi Arabia, because as minister I cannot procure. It is you guys who must procure. They went to Saudi Arabia. They said, oh, they called back. And minister, this is what we found out. I said, you know, for that price, I don't have the budget, so you have to negotiate and bring the price down. And that's how we ended up at $388, and I have proof for it. So when you are buying at $1,500 per metric ton, 4 times what I was paying in 2013 to 2014, I asked myself, what's going on? You can see clearly this is theft, authorized theft. How do you deal with that?
Let's pick up some text messages. It's getting hot in here. Why has government in the 2024 budget chosen to increase CDF, find to more than 30 million per year, when not the whole allocated in 2023 was disbursed? The question is, it has been increased, but
it's being used for political purposes. Okay, now to increase the CDF is a good idea if it is used for the correct purposes. No problem with that. I don't have a problem with it, but it is not used for capital items. I'm talking about capex. Are you going to construct a road from 30 million? And I'll give you the example, right? In my home area, Mafinga, you have to go through a mountain, Mushinga, in order to get onto that side. The road is 189 kilometers long. Are you going to be able to use that CDF to do that road? Because that's the only source that the people have. The answer is no. So it is intended for maintenance. It's intended for smaller items. It is not intended for agriculture per se, but it can be used partly for doing maybe constructing a bridge on a particular road. But it is not going to be used for a big, shall we say, roads into wards, because the money is not sufficient. And I'm not saying because of that, therefore, it's not a good idea. I'm not saying that. But if you don't have the plans in place, you will end up with money allocated or proposed or put aside or set apart, okay? But it's not going to be released because you don't have the cash flow.
But if you have plans, like I'll talk about in we call it the United Nations in Rufunsa,
yes,
where Bishop John Mambo is the headman,
yes,
senior chief headman. The CDF has been used to purchase the equipment. And the roads now, the feeder roads and everything, that machine, it's not for hire, it's not for what.
It's for that purpose.
It's for that purpose.
Fantastic.
And we are going to go into feeder roads and what.
But what stopped the government from buying the tractors, the water bowsers, the bulldozers, the front-end loaders, the tippers, and so on and so on? What stopped the government from buying and distributing to the constituencies? What stopped them? What stopped the government from buying ambulances and distributing them, as they've just done, as what was announced by the president last week? What stops them? Nothing. So it's now being used, okay?
But
but I'm not saying it's not a good idea.
Yeah, but
I'm just
there is also the component of empowering the locals.
No. There was no law, Pastor. There was no law before 2020. That law requires that the local people must participate. The Planning and Budgeting Act of 2020 requires that people at ward level, people at constituency level, people at district level participate. That the law required from 2020. Before that, there wasn't any. But I'm saying that what would have stopped any government, including the UPND government, from buying these tractors, these water bowsers, these compactors, or these tippers, and giving them to these, allocating them and saying, please use them for the purpose for which it's intended, which is what you're asking us about. What was there to stop it?
Let's pick up another text message. Honorable Bob, is it fine for the new levy by the government of taxing a poor man or woman whom a son or daughter have sent him or her 100 kwacha? Is it okay?
It is not okay.
This I heard the Honorable Musabatane debating today that all they are getting is just a small amount.
No. But why are you asking a small amount from poor people when you are not asking the same from the mines who are taking your mineral? Why are you not doing that? Why are you reducing the mineral royalty tax for the mines? Why are you doing that? And they're getting $8,300 per metric ton. Why are you doing that?
And President, I was saying we are so bad that we feed off our own. We are so nice to them because with them we want to create an impression that we are okay. We can choose to forgo tax for these conglomerates because we are beneficiaries. You can even see where we are benefiting because some of these companies, these are our colleagues, this is some of us reinvented, we are the ones actually who are investing in these things. So we zero rate. We go around and we see opportunity for us to make money and cash big on selling electric cars with zero rated. How many Zambians can buy electric cars? Here in Zambia, we buy cars that are 15, 10 years old. So we know that only a few, the elite, those you are found with when you are wearing gloves and having elite parties, those are the people that you... So people are that evil, for lack of better terms, are that evil such that they can have a law to protect their friends. Then those, they see them as avenues for exploitation. It is us who sold our ancestors in slavery. We still have those demons moving around us. So we need to be cleansed.
The Honorable Minister, on that symposium, I listened to part of it. He said the problem is not with the government, it is the service providers. They are the ones who take more, not the government. Because
who regulates the service providers?
We are just taking
who regulates the service providers? It's government. It's policy. They've got all the power to change policy to benefit us. But what I'm saying is, there's one thing we should be talking about. If you look at our constitution, before it takes us far, it talks about values. Is a problem we should be working on. I'm glad you're a bishop, you're a pastor. You attend to the heart. I think the biggest problem we have in this country are matters of the heart. That's why there is no love for the people. We can exploit them provided we can justify. No, it's those companies. Those companies are a creature of the law.
Exactly.
So we have got the power to adjust the law. So if Airtel is stealing from the people, we have got the law to regulate them.
We can change that, Honorable.
Of course we can. But the policy framework, the revenue side, remember, I'm sorry I didn't carry the book with me. The revenue side is such a small percentage of the budget. Small, like this. 12 pages.
Like you said in that book, communication, 3%.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that all these, isn't it government responsibility to identify there's a problem here and we're going to deal with it this way by this policy? When the Minister of Telecommunications or Information Systems comes to present, what will he be saying? Or will she be saying? What will she be saying? In fact, this government is feeding on the fact that we can appeal to sentiment. Just like you reacted. Look at this. CDF is helping us to have these tractors and so on and so forth. That is what is being politicized. I said to you, what stopped government from buying ambulances for the districts or building those schools in those places? What stopped the government from doing that? The UPND government. Who stopped them? It didn't have. The CDF is just a channel. That's all. Every time we do the budget, you go back to the people and ask them, what are your priorities? What is it that you want? But the people at constituency level cannot do a plan. They don't. They don't have the systems. They don't have the establishment. They don't have the government institutions to do that. They're at the district level.
President,
you have a lot of work.
This is too much.
You have a lot of work.
In one night.
You have a lot of work to work on the hearts of men. That is where the problem is. We hate ourselves. Self-hate. How I wish it could show in government policy for us to be working on that. Because, Imwe, you have been abroad. People don't, even in tuition, we feel for them. You see that in a country, when you go to the US, it's not because they have got a lot of money. It's because of the value they have placed on a human being. That they will say, no. We who have detailed logs here. Each family, the government will pay you for in Zambian kwacha. They will pay for each child. It is 4,000 kwacha in Zambian equivalent. The kind of value we put on life. Such that minimum reaches 500. That's a projection when you read the figures by January. But provided some people are fine, some people are not bothered. So if you have people presiding over resources of the country and they are not bothered, street vendors, why should we be having street kids murod? Independence, president, you see, you know what I mean? And we are human beings. We can have a policy and say, no, we'll never have this kind of thing. We can repeat that. So we cannot allow this. As it's government, it's a policy. When you see them, you round them up, you take them to a rehabilitation center. We have the money. But we do not put our premium on human life. We put a premium on self-actualization. I've got the farms. I'm an architect. I've had clients among some of these our colleagues. You know what palpates them? What they think about all the time? No, we need to cut them more space. Where is that? In those elite places. We do not feel that, look, Zambians are losing. How do we go in and alleviate poverty? Your agenda of alleviating poverty because you feel Chile Kalipa.
Honorable President, just give me, I'll ask my director to load 5 text messages. I know that we are in news time, but back to back, which the director knows which ones to feed us with. I want us to go thinking about this, or we respond to them. Good discussion. Agriculture is one area government has neglected. Why can't we introduce state farms which can be run by Zambia National Service and prisons? These farms can produce meal and cooking oil with a bit of subsidy, e.g. through reduced electricity tariffs. Okay? Yeah. Another one, Mr. Director. President, if you know people that got national property and have not paid, and you also know a minister who was approached for a progressive plan, but the minister wants to take advantage of that, why can't you report to the police?
Which police?
I've reported to ACC twice. 50 million. It was first when Alpha Commodity stole that money. I'm mentioning the name because it's in fact I've reported.
Let me get this. Good evening, please. Why are we bringing something which we are not supposed to query? Let us help those people in power so that the country should develop. Because if we keep talking out without doing anything, we are not helping ourselves.
What has he done? What has he done?
What has he done?
That same person who is raising the issue. What has he done?
We have had moments, if I can just answer that. We have been to police. We have been to FCC. I've even written to the board chairman for Anti-Corruption Commission.
You have written?
Even written because Anti-Corruption Commission reaches at a point where they need to make arrest. And they are unable to because the people that are involved are people of interest. There is even sanctioning by cabinet. How are they going to now arrest somebody who's part of cabinet? So when we have criminals who are actually the ones who are supposed to be stealing, it's very difficult. But we report. To police we report. As EFF, this is a government in waiting that is responsible. We report these criminals. But they keep stealing. They keep stealing and covering themselves. It's not fair.
Are you saying when you become president, you want to come with a baggage of criminals?
Who arrest them? Who arrest them?
And if you are bribed yourself?
They have attempted to bribe me day in, day out. Even today they were attempting to bribe me. So, to bribe also comes from a place of your heart. I think I've put a premium on integrity. That's why there's a page at Koswe, which is from people that have confessed. It's run by the state functionaries, apparently at State House. They use it like rabid dogs to set on anyone that is speaking against government. So whatever happened to them yesterday, they had an opportunity to set those rabid dogs on me. And they put my picture and say I received 300,000 from Edgar Chabarungu and Membe, and Mr. Membe, that I should go and cause riots in Imansa. Am I mad? But the state will not protect me. They know I'm being harassed. I'm being scandalized. And they know who runs that page. But they won't touch him. And he's trying to taint my image. That 300 to me is change. I can work for it.
Time is not with us. Your last words in 1 minute, then Honorable Bob Chinga, and we call it a night.
Thank you. Of course, I always get opportunity to say, us, we're a political party, and our prayer is that God gives us an opportunity to form government. Those who want to be part of this vision, I always give my number, it's 0966.
Don't give it now.
7612.
Last time I gave it to you, but now don't give it.
Sorry, I already gave it. But
You
all that
are
I'm saying,
campaigning.
all that I'm saying is that if the problem persists, and you can see it, it means you can do something about it. Zambia has had great men like this. When I give a word of respect, my big man, these are men who have stood up and said no to some atrocities. They have shown us that it's possible to stand up. As economic freedom fighters, we are standing up for this country, and we want to set the record straight. There are people of integrity there. Come and join us, be part of this, and we can change this country and make it great.
I see. Honorable Bob Chinga.
Well, I think we've been on this road many times, Pastor Chiluba. My honest opinion is that for me, I've been extremely disappointed with what has happened, because it's like we just jump from one group of individuals to another. Okay, I mean PF under Mr. Lungu. Look, it was a mess. But we're creating a mess right now. So,
a bigger mess.
What you members say, tapalimbo ya kutasha. Okay, you know, we still like we're jumping from the frying pan into the fire itself. Come on, when shall we have a rest? When shall we have a rest? I mean, one was hoping, and now I even said to myself, why did we even start MMD in the first place? Why didn't we just keep counter to keep going? Because the MMD had its own issues. And then you move from MMD, you are at PF, it's another story. From PF now, it's UPND, it's another story. When shall we take a rest? It's very sad. And I want to say this to you. This, because some level happens, reports don't lie. Sooner than later, it will come out. And it will expose the exchange rate is failing us right now, as we stand right now. How many people in the townships right now, just look at social media, how many people in the townships are crying? They can't have square meals. They are stealing from vehicles if they break down because they are desperate. So my point is that, you know, sometimes you even say, wait a minute, it's embarrassing, Pastor Chiluba, to even be called a politician. It's like all of you are thieves. It's very sad. It's a very sad situation. I had hoped that in my lifetime would have made some difference, but it's clear it probably won't happen in my lifetime.
No, hope is on the way.
Yeah,
We'll make a difference.
My heart goes out to many people. I mean, at my home we've got some workers, and then you say maybe I should just pay them this little bit more, even if it means we delay some payment, some other payment. You know that when you can see these people, if you pay 2,000 kwacha, what will they survive on? Can they survive on 2,000 kwacha? No. But that's all I have that I can be able to put aside. So I'm saddened. I'm saddened by the situation in which our country is. All these budget things, you know, they're rhetoric. That's all.
Well, President Kasonde, Honorable Bob Chinga, I'm so grateful that you came.
Thank you.
Before I close this, Honorable, you remember that I mobilized all of you,
Yes.
technocrats? The paper I presented at President Chagwalungu at State House. And that paper, we still have it. Through agriculture, we can generate between 8 to 12 billion US dollars.
Yes, right. Even more.
Even more. Yeah, but that's the projection
sure.
we gave.
Yes.
Why start singing for foreigners?
Correct.
This is why I say, Zambians, please own land. One day, God will open the doors of opportunity that in our own way as Zambians, we are going to bring something better, you know. Not that the government is not doing what they are doing. They are doing, this is their best, this is their vision. But as Zambians, let's come together and put our heads together, because Zambia is for Zambians. I've been your pastor, Pastor Moses Chiluba, on this national matters. And tune in on Monday next week, another hot topic. I like when Zambians put their thoughts together and say, we can make it, we will develop Zambia. On behalf of my wife, the CEO of this national television, and on behalf of the technical people, the Camnet TV staff, you are awesome. God brought you in our lives and this station for a purpose. To you viewers, keep watching Camnet TV. You know that Camnet TV is not just another channel. Bye-bye.